Clinton, so I'd like to call that member.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I've come late to this debate, but wanted to take just a very brief call to make a few comments to reaffirm the Greens' opposition to this bill and to support some of the statements that have been made tonight. The first point I must make has already been made, but it's worth repeating and repeating and repeating, that in fact 12 and 13-year-olds are children. No surprise to either of us, I'm going to disagree with Mr Garrett, who tells us that some of these young offenders are in fact no longer children, despite their chronological age. In fact, they are children. They are damaged children. They are corrupted children. They are children that have been formed and shaped by poverty, by neglect, by lack of opportunity, by lack of basic nutrition, by lack of education. I recently had the pleasure to spend some time with a niece, in fact, and some of her friends, 15, 16-year-old young women. Growing young women, I use that word deliberately. They are fundamentally, this young lady, she is a very, very different person to what she was even 2 and 3 years ago. There is a substantial evolution, a significant change that occurs at that age between a child of 11 or 12 and a young woman of 15. And to deny that, I'm afraid, is just to deny a reality that many of us as parents and in fact carers of children do in fact know. There's a question of responsibility. We share responsibility for the offences these young children commit. And they are terrible offences, and they're tragic to see these young people committing these crimes. But the fact is, it is our responsibility, us more than anyone as parliamentarians. This bill does not address the resolution, how do we face up to those responsibilities. Punishment is not the appropriate response to failure to nurture young children in a way that prevents them turning into these damaged children. Why is it that these kids are on the street at night and then conceivably doing crime? Today we had a rally in the front of Parliament steps from the cleaners who keep this place habitable and a nice place to be, earning $12.55 an hour. A minimum wage of $15 might go a long way towards enabling those people to spend more time in their own homes. A decent basic wage for every family. Even when I was bringing up a daughter, was able to support a small family on a single income. And that is simply not an option for so many people today. Beneficiaries, in particular DPBs, are now under enormous pressure to return to work when the youngest child hits around the age of 6. What I fail to see the simple economic calculation in that says to me that is a very expensive policy, forcing women into the workforce, taking them away from the care of their own children. Who better than a parent to be looking after a child? The fact that people on low incomes and benefits can seldom afford stable housing. We know that children who are transient, who don't have a secure, stable home, are those most likely to offend. Again, there is a number of policy settings that can improve the likelihood that children will be nurtured and brought up in a stable family home. And we're not seeing those emerging from this government, I have to say. There was a reference made earlier to perhaps the opposition to this bill was reflecting an outdated view. I would put to that comment that in fact this bill does indeed, and I'm echoing my co-leader who made the point that this sounds like something from the 18th or early 19th century. The fact that we punish the child rather than look in the mirror and challenge ourselves to make sure that these damaged children do not emerge. There was a point made that the Police Association support this bill. I would just make a passing comment that they oppose the 3 strikes legislation, so let's give the same mana to that statement of theirs as some would have us give to this. And I say that in the context clearly of supporting the police in their work. So that's probably as much as I need to say, just to reiterate that this is a tragedy, this is a social tragedy. We need to take responsibility. We need an intelligent, informed and long-term solution to it, and this bill is not that solution. Kia ora.
I call